Hey everyone, I'm Liz Hunt.
I'm Chelsea Poppens.
And this is the Agency Rocket Show, where we talk about the chaos of running a creative agency.
Woo! And today we're in episode 2. Last episode, we talked about our process and what works for us at DayCloud Studios. And we're going to dive a little more into the weeds of the discovery phase and interactive mood board so that you guys can get a little bit better understanding what that looks like and why we do it and why it's so entailed. So to kick it off, I want to pass the mic to Liz. You're the founder of DayCloud. DayCloud's been going for about 12 plus years. What brought you to kind of create this discovery phase workshop? It's about a 2-hour, sometimes 3-hour long process. Like, how did that take shape and how did you build that up?
Yeah. So really, the answer to that is that I failed over and over and over and over again getting it right for clients until I was able to figure out a system that helped us align so well with the client's vision in the beginning that it allowed us to hit the mark every time on the actual creative and messaging when it came to branding. And so basically, I realized that there's a lot more upfront work that we have to do, a lot more information gathering, a lot more, honestly, just time that you spend with your client asking 65 different ways who they are. And so that's really how the branding workshop has evolved over time, is just trying it and then realizing, well, that didn't work. And then trying again, kind of like the 409 story. It took them 408 times that they failed. And then the 409th time is when they figured out the actual chemical balances and mixture was like finally right. And that's why they called it 409. And so it's kind of that same idea, as we just kept trying things and adjusting and pivoting. And every time a new client would come in, we would add this little piece to the workshop or try this part to the workshop or do this piece. And to be honest, we still do that. I think that we have gotten into a really good stride with the branding workshop and the discovery time that we have with our clients, because more and more we hit the mark 9.5 out of 10 times for our clients. And honestly, I would actually go so far as to say 10 out of 10 times we hit the mark for our clients.
Ooh, but, ballsy.
I
bold.
Know.
Say it with your chest.
I know, right? But I mean, like, obviously I believe in our product, but I would say that I always want to figure out ways of pushing us and making us grow and being even better. So yeah, we still are continuing to refine the process.
Yeah, I would agree that 10 out of 10 times we hit the mark every time. I think when we are actually doing the entirety of our process and not cutting corners, like there's been projects that we have been like, maybe that doesn't need a discovery phase. And then we find out that it kind of explodes because, like we said before, is the perspective of the client and the perspective of us. What we take for granted and how they see things are very different. And it's not always going to be aligned. What they see as a quick little refresh or a little facial, and we're like, that's actually a pretty heavy lift, and there's a reason.
You actually need facial reconstruction.
Yeah, we're going to require surgery for this one.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think there's a lot of people that step into these kind of meetings and step into projects, not just branding, without doing a discovery process. And then they end up failing epically. And the client ends up being disappointed and frustrated. And there's so many stories out there where clients are frustrated with working with an agency because the expectations aren't set up front. They didn't feel heard. They don't feel like the product matches them, their personality, the vibe that they were going for. And that communication broke down at some point in time. And so like this discovery workshop really eliminates that lack of communication or communication breakdown. And from my perspective of being at DayCloud for the last 4-ish years, our branding projects really hit the mark every time. And I think that's one of those elite things that we do.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that there are other areas in our business that we can improve quite a bit. But when it comes to branding, I think that is what we do. That is what we are awesome at. It's what we're good at. Our clients rave about the branding work that we do every time.
Mhm.
And I attribute that 100% to the process that we walk through, this discovery process, this mood board process that we have with our clients. And I attribute it all to making sure that we get alignment first on all the areas that really matter. And then the rest of it is, as I say, gravy.
Gravy. But I also, from a project manager standpoint, like it sets the foundation for the project. It clarifies goals, audience, and brand personality, and any gaps where the client thinks they need versus what they actually need. And then we are able to establish that trust from the get-go. But also at the end of the day, it will end up saving time from me as a project manager when I'm able to set up the expectations from the get-go before we dive into the rest of it.
Yeah, that's true. It does help. And it helps us, I think, really shine too.
Yeah, especially if people haven't had good experiences in the past when they come to our company and our agency and we really make them feel seen and heard. I think that's a very big difference.
Yeah.
So another thing I think the discovery process also helps is like understanding the client vision. Can you talk to us like what the discovery phase actually entails? Pretend I'm a client and explain to like our listeners, I'm stepping into this meeting. What can I expect?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that you can expect is snacks and drinks because we know it's a long meeting.
Sometimes real drinks, adult drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. Depending on who the client is. Yeah.
And the time
of day, maybe. I've had branding meetings at 7 a.m. in the morning, and that was, that was an intense morning. But you know what these workshops really are? They're very interactive. It's an actual workshop. So we have you do activities. There are times that we're going to ask you a question and you have to write your answers down and share with the class, you know? We try not to do that too much because I know people can get a little bit shy or whatever, but that is something that we do. And so we take you through kind of a journey of your business. You know, tell us about your company and what are your goals and what is your mission and what is it that your aspirations are and your big, hairy, audacious goals. Like, what are some of those things that you guys are really chasing after in the company? But then we also have to learn what has worked for you in the past. So we talk about, have you done marketing before? Have you found something that is successful and that kind of thing? And then obviously another huge chunk of what we talk about for our clients in that workshop is we talk about who their audience is. We have to talk about their customer. Who is their customer? What is it that they want? What are other brands that their customer subscribes to and loves? And it could be anything from the cars that they drive to the clothes that they wear to the apps that they love and anything and everything, right? And then we talk about what are some of the types of communities that their customer is involved in. Are they involved in faith-based communities? Are they involved in bookshops and book clubs and things like that? Are they involved in going to concerts? What kinds of things are these customers of yours? What are they into, right? Because we have to find those things out. And so we talk a lot about that. And we do a deep dive into the customer for the client.
A lot of times it is the things that you as a business owner don't think about. You're like, people just find me, but how do they find you? Why do they find you? And through what matter? Is it through Google? Is it through social? Is it through all these little variables? You don't get in the weeds because if you're a business owner and you're listening to this right now, you understand it's not a 40-hour work week. It's a 60 to all day, all week. It's limitless, the amount of work that you could put into your business. And to get into the weeds is really difficult unless you're actively being kind of like coached through it.
And that's a good point. And so we kind of help coach them through a lot of that stuff. We ask them questions that help them think through some of that stuff. This is something, to your point, Charles, like that a lot of business owners or teams really like to say is that our product is for everybody. We can sell to anybody. It's like, well, yes.
It's pretty audacious.
But there's a specific type of person that is really going to love you.
You're like, what age? All ages.
Yeah. But like... Are you? And so I like to share that if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. And that is very true when it comes to any form of branding and any form of marketing. You really have to focus on narrowing your messaging and your focusing. And again, you're not excluding anybody. You're not obviously going to take somebody's money because you're like, well, you don't fit my target audience. Goodbye. Mm-hmm. No, I'm still going to take your money. It's just that we build audiences around specific characteristics of people that have shown that they typically like this sort of brand or this sort of product or service, right? And so we like to build things around that kind of thing. And so we just have to keep that in mind, because if you build it for everyone, it will be so vanilla and so watered down that it will feel completely generic, and your customer will be left feeling like they don't even know who I am. And they won't speak to them. Yeah.
It won't speak to them. They won't see themselves reflected in it.
No.
But there's also a reason that there's whole organizations or businesses out there that are focused on the psychology of customers and the customer experience and how the customer perceives your brand or what that journey looks like. There's a whole psychology. There's a whole equation to it. And that's a whole other thing for a different day. But yeah.
So we do spend quite a bit of time learning about the customer, talking about the customer. And if we can, we do customer interviews so that we can have a really good, solid understanding, because there's only so much that you can learn about your customer from the business. And sometimes it's way better if you can actually hear it from the customer themselves. And so we've done that before too, where we do both. And then, did you have more to say?
I was just going to add. So our workshop is just a lot of questions. We have our presentation. Liz works up her energy for a 2 to 3 hour long workshop. And
I'm usually smoked afterward.
Oh yeah. We happen to block off the day kind of because it's exhausting for you to be up there too, because you have to manage. You're not really managing the answers, but you're directing traffic. If the question is asked and the client, especially if there's like 7 people in there, sometimes it comes to a standstill because people don't always know how to answer, or there's too many people answering, and there needs to be somebody, which is Liz, directing traffic and like making sure that everything's still flowing well and that we get to the bottom of an answer. You think this and you think this, what is that compromise? And so it is a series of questions, and sometimes we bring paper, people have to write some things down, and so
I serve as the facilitator.
That's a better word than my director of traffic. I'm like directing traffic.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I wish I had facilitator in my vocabulary.
I mean, it's the same thing though. You're not wrong. Sometimes it is kind of like directing traffic. You go this way, you go that way. You're not wrong. Kind of the next main section is we focus on creative. And so that looks like we have discussions about creative, but then we switch to actually looking at creative and then having conversations about them. And so we look at other brands and other logos and what other people have done. And it's
very intentional that it's not DayCloud stuff.
Yes. And I always tell the client that, like, hey, it's none of our agency's work, so you guys can feel free to be as honest as you want. And we do a lot of those. We go through probably about 100 different brands. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's insanely helpful, because one of the things that I purposely do in that interactive mood board section is I purposely bring out brands that I think that they will hate, and brands that I think they will love, and brands that I think are like, meh. And I really have to rein in my biases, even like subconscious bias. It's very difficult, because a lot of times I've learned that I would expect this client to like this kind of thing or like this kind of thing, because while we were having conversations about creative, they said they wanted it really simple. But then what we find is that when we're looking at that interactive mood board, everything starts to kind of come together. And a lot of times I've realized that what I would consider simple is not necessarily what the client considers simple. And so that interactive mood board piece is insanely helpful because it really gives, obviously, visuals to their language that we've been trying to speak. And so that helps us align in so many different ways when it comes to the creative. And so we categorize things with them. We say, do you like this? Do you like that? And then we go through everything that they liked and we talk about what specific parts of them that they did like. Did they like the typography? Did they like the graphics? Did they like the colors? Did they like general layout? Whatever it is. And we go through those things and I start to point out themes that I'm starting to see. And that's really helpful, I think, also for the client to see that, oh, hey, I'm starting to see a pattern. Because
they're not coming from a designer perspective. They didn't go to school for that. They don't have contemporary or modern or traditional, usually in their day-to-day language or to describe things.
Right. Yes, exactly. We speak different languages, and doing this with the visuals helps us get on the same page. Like when I say simple and when the client says simple, this is what they mean. And I can see what the client means when they say the word simple and modern.
And they can see it too.
Yes, exactly. And so that's really helpful. And so then we talk about themes, like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of dark greens in your palette, and I'm seeing a lot of what I wish people would do. No one's ever let me do this before, but hot pinks in your color palette. One of these days, Chelsea. Usually it's blues and greens and gold.
Well, I think that is also dependent on the industry. So there's been a theme of the type of businesses that have come to us for branding and stuff. And not a lot of them are those crazy, fun, hot pink type of industries that would really want to pop. So, and if anybody's listening and they're that type of industry and they want some branding, hit us up.
Yeah. Also, could you please refrain from using that P word? I really hate that word.
What's pink?
No.
What did I say?
P-O-P. Don't say that word.
Pop.
Pop. It's like my moist. Oh, I hate it.
That's hilarious because Pop used to be my nickname. People call me, my last name's Poppens. So like in college, in basketball, people be like, hey, Pop, get over here.
No.
So this is hilarious.
So cringy.
The irony.
Yeah. Well, I will never call you that. At least you can rest assured in that.
Touche.
I only ever say soda. And when people use
Not
that
soda
word,
pop?
No, Chelsea, gross.
I'm going to get so much enjoyment out of this.
Oh my God, I never should have told you.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So funny.
But why?
Okay.
You like gagged. I think you just gagged a little.
It's because I grew up in this is like deep cut, so.
Oh, we're getting deep into the traumas.
Yes. And it's like part feminism, part personal trauma. People used to say about women that they would like pop out babies.
Oh.
And that just made that word like a trigger word for me. And so.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now I hate it. I hate it so much.
Ryan will say this very cringy catchphrase as if he's cool and like hip with it. He'll say it's popping off. Like he'll like say it for some really dumb stuff. He'd be like, wow, that's really popping off. I'm like, is it popping off, Ryan? Is it?
Is it though? Yeah.
Is it? I don't think it's popping off. I think you're too old to use that language. Yeah. Is that really dope?
Too old and too much of a scientist.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, please refrain from using that kind of language around me, Chelsea.
I'll try. I was like, pink? You just said it.
I know. No. When I was younger, I used to have a whole list of P words that I hated, but that one is the only one that really stuck. Yeah. I know.
Wow. I'm profiling you and digging into your traumas mentally right now.
I mean, it's pretty clear, I think.
That's hilarious.
I know. Ugh, gosh.
Ugh.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, back
So
to
anyway,
the interactive mood board.
My whole point was that I wish that people would love hot pink and that we could do a hot pink brand. So instead I just did my own, but Anyway, we work with clients to find the themes and the patterns around the items that they like, the visuals that they like, and all the things. And because we do that, plus the discovery questions and everything, those two things combined has honestly changed the game for our output and our client happiness. Just how good our clients feel about the work that we do, it has changed absolutely everything.
Well, honestly, too, it's also a huge relationship builder because they don't know us. They don't know our personalities. They don't know how we work quite yet. Like they probably had maybe one or two conversations before this discovery meeting, depending on the project. It really allows us to bring our personalities into it. We're fun. Branding is fun. This is one of the cooler, more interactive things that we could be doing rather than any other project. And we really love branding projects and we can share that with the client. But also like everyone loves to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it gives the client a chance to really just keep talking about themselves and build that partnership with us. Here's 2 to 3 hours just to talk about you and tell us about you and your baby and why you care about this so much.
Yeah.
So that we can understand and handle it with care.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. I love that it allows the client to meet so many other people on our team too. Because to your point, they typically have a couple meetings beforehand. And usually those meetings are with me and just me. And then once we get into that discovery part, it's like they get to meet our designers and our copywriters and marketing people. And they get to build those relationships.
And we really pride ourselves on, well, I wouldn't say we really label ourselves it, but like we are a quirky bunch. And
we're creatives.
Our drink of choice is, what is it? Mango habanero margarita?
A spicy coconut.
Coconut? Did we change it?
Pineapple. Sorry, pineapple. It's a spicy pineapple margarita.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we changed it.
No, it's always been that.
Okay.
Because that's the drink that I get at the Ritz-Carlton on Turks and Caicos Island.
Bougie.
But like that's what it is. It's this jalapeno pineapple margarita that changed my life, and it was just like the heavens opened up when I drank this drink because it was so good. And I was like, this is DayCloud. This is us. Equal parts spicy and sweet and refreshing all around.
Also, to speak of those type of things, we have fun questions in our discovery phase. It'll be, if you were a drink, what kind of drink would you be? Obviously, that one's ours. If you were a car, what kind of car would you be? And then they get to bounce around. If there's more people in the room, it gets a little more engaging because you kind of get people that are like, no, we're not that.
Yeah.
Or I think the one that most people fight on is you had a spokesperson for your brand. Who would it be? And a lot of people have very different mindsets on who they would love to represent their brand or talk about on their brand.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
So those are the fun ones.
Yeah. And we put those at the end because everyone's starting to get tired. And so we need them to kind of open up and move around a little bit and laugh a little bit, that kind of thing. So yeah. It's good.
But another piece of these discovery meetings, even just from a project manager standpoint, is that it sets those expectations for the client and our team. Everyone agrees on what's happening, the timeline of things, and if there's any pushback, that gets brought up. But also, it just ends up saving time and money. I know it's a 2 to 3 hour meeting, which is kind of hard for anybody to lock into their day or into their work week. But also doing so saves so much time down the road as far as revision or any confusion, or we have a certain amount of edits and revisions in place for a reason so that we can stay on pace. We can make sure people are not just throwing things out there into the wind for us to make as far as edits and changes and blow up the project. But it just gives that roadmap and guides every decision that we're doing in the project and makes everyone feel confident from the get-go. You and I talk about this all the time. It also gives us an opportunity to make sure that they know that we are driving the vehicle.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Sure. This is something, like you said, that we talk about quite a bit, is that you have to set the precedence from the beginning that you are leading them through the process. And not only so that clients don't railroad you, because there's some clients that will do that and they'll try to do that, even if you are doing everything I'm saying from the beginning. There are some clients who just have big personalities, or they just...
That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
Big personalities.
Can you tell that I've worked with a few?
Currently working with. No.
Yeah, no. But also, then there's the other clients who they need a lot of, not hand-holding in like a bad way, but they just need to know what the heck is going on, as they should. They paid you a lot of money to do this. And so I think as far as going through a creative process, there is not many people that do this more than once. We do it all the time. We know the process. We understand what's going to happen. And we understand if there's a little bump in the road, we know how to diverge into a solution really easily and quickly and adapt. And things come up, especially in creative, because like sometimes things are just happy accidents and you're like, well, that's a way better solution. And here we go. But clients don't necessarily do that, and they can't necessarily do that. And so that's why we talk a lot about making sure that you are communicating to them what is going to happen. That's a huge way that you can help lead them through the process. If you just summarize at the end of your meetings, here's what we talked about. And then at the beginning of your meetings, you say, here's what we're going to talk about today. You're just explaining to them, this is what's happening now. Here's what's going to happen in the future, next 2 or 3 steps. And this is what my expectations are for you, client. I'm going to give you this creative, and then you're going to give me edits back in 2 or 3 days.
In a timely fashion.
Yes. Yeah. People want to do the right thing, but they don't know how to do it unless you tell them what you're expecting.
Give clear direction.
Yes. And one of my clients, actually just the other day, I had a phone call with her because I was not quite understanding what it is that they were wanting. And one of the things that she said to me was, clarity is kind. And she was like, thank you so much for calling me because I want to be clear. And she said, clarity is kind. And I think she's so smart. And that's so true. Being clear about your expectations to the client is kind to them and also truthfully to yourself, because then the client will feel better about the process. They'll feel better about you. They will feel like you are highly professional and that they are getting good service.
Also, just the fact that if you are willing as a creative, as a freelancer, as anybody, if you're willing to hop on the phone and give somebody a call, that speaks volumes about the character of you and the professionalism of you, because there are so many people who are so scared to hop on a phone call with people to have that interaction, and they avoid it, whether that's scheduling appointments, whether that's just being like, hey, you're not answering my emails. Can we get this date set up? Or is there a reason that you are not answering my emails? Do I need to call you instead of emailing you? Do I need to text you? What's your preferred method of communication?
That's the Chelsea Poppens version of.
I'm like, how do I get you to answer me?
Like, is there a reason you're not responding to me right now?
Do you hate me?
Oh my God.
Do you just, sometimes as a project manager, I do feel like that. When I go to a string of emails and it's been 3 follow-ups and they're all like, hey, following up on the above. And I was like, oh, I don't want to send the 4th one. But it's been like a month.
Yeah. And we're still waiting on you, Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing
everyone hates the project manager.
I don't hate you, Chelsea. I appreciate you so much. One thing that we have done, though, is if there's a client that we've worked with in the past and they have been terrible about getting things to us, there are things you can do where you can penalize them or reward them based on if they get you stuff on time. I'm thinking of a particular client. Every time we've ever built them a website, it has taken a year to build their just typical marketing site. And it's because they will ghost us for months at a time. They get busy. And so one of the things that we tried doing with them was saying, hey, we'll give you a discount if you get all this information to us by this date. And
they worked hard, but they didn't
they
meet
tried,
the date.
but they didn't get it. But I could tell that they were at least trying,
Motivated.
And so, yes.
Yeah.
And then there have been other times where, let's say a client, we have a demo site up and the client is just ghosting us, not getting back to us with the information that we need. Those times we will start charging them our typical hosting fees and charging them for just holding on to their site while they do whatever they're doing. So there's kind of different ways that we've managed also some of that.
Important. I'm trying to emphasize my words more, but it's also important to repeat yourself. I think a lot of times people say that, like, oh, I told you that at the beginning of the project, but people forget. People's short-term memory is bad. Well, not short-term memory, long-term memory, whatever. People don't remember. So constantly putting it in front of their face, constantly repeating yourself, giving too many details, over-communicating is going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, that's something we've also had to learn the hard way. It's like, well, I told you that 6 months ago.
I'm like, it's in the status doc, but I guess I need to just email you it and rewrite everything that I wrote in the status doc just in an email.
Yeah. But it's good, all in all.
So that's our discovery phase. It includes a lot of questions, an interactive mood board, which is a little more visual. We get a chance to engage with our clients and set expectations. But I think the moral of the story is for anybody out there looking into like doing more projects, if you're ever tempted to skip the discovery phase, don't do it. And it's going to be detrimental, and you're going to, maybe do it and fail and learn from it and make it better, like everybody should. But it really isn't an investment in the success of your project and your relationship with that client. So don't skip it.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Please like, share, follow. Bye.
Bye. Bye.